What happens when a decorated space captain turns against his own squad for an alien artifact? You won't believe how far he's willing to go, or the price of the power it promises. The silence aboard the Eclipse Vanguard was shattered by the sharp hiss of decompression alarms. Red warning lights bathed the narrow corridors in a sinister glow, casting long shadows across the faces of 6 heavily armed soldiers. At the helm of this elite unit stood Captain Marcus Reed, his reputation forged in fire and blood, his decisions revered as infallible. But tonight something had shifted. Tonight he wasn't leading them into battle. He was standing against them. "Captain," growled Lieutenant Caravas, her voice trembling not from fear but fury. Her rifle trembled slightly as she steadied it on Reed's chest. "You've got 10 seconds to explain yourself before we put you down like the traitor you are." Reed didn't flinch. His piercing gray eyes locked onto hers, unwavering despite the storm brewing around him. Behind him loomed the alien artifact they'd been sent to retrieve, a monolith of shifting obsidian that pulsed faintly, as if alive. It hummed softly, its frequency resonating deep within their bones, almost like a whisper only they could hear. The oppressive weight of the situation pressed down on everyone present, suffocating them with unanswered questions. Lieutenant Voss took a step forward, her boots clanging loudly against the metallic floor. Each movement echoed ominously through the corridor, emphasizing the gravity of what was unfolding. She had served under Reed for years, trusted him implicitly, followed him into countless battles without hesitation. Yet here they were, weapons drawn, betrayal hanging thick in the air between them. Reed's demeanor remained unervingly calm, a stark contrast to the chaos surrounding him. He seemed detached, as though he existed in a different reality altogether, one where loyalty and duty no longer held sway over his actions. This transformation terrified his squad more than any external threat ever could. They had faced insurmountable odds together, fought off hordes of hostile aliens, survived missions deemed suicidal by command. None of those experiences prepared them for this moment. Confronting their own captain, questioning everything they thought they knew about him. Behind Voss, Corporal Dex Hargrove adjusted his grip on his plasma rifle, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool, recycled air of the ship. Beside him, Sergeant Elias Kane muttered under his breath, cursing silently while scanning the area for potential ambushes or escape routes. Medic Rhea Calder stood slightly apart from the group, her medical kit slung over one shoulder, ready to tend to wounds that might soon appear all too real. Their unity as a team felt fractured, splintered by the invisible force emanating from the artifact behind Reed. We only just began unraveling what drove Captain Reed to this moment. But trust me, this story is far darker than any betrayal you've imagined. Stay tuned because when the truth comes out, it'll leave you questioning everything. It all started 3 days ago, light years away from where they now stood frozen in conflict. The mission briefing had been straightforward. Infiltrate the derelict cruiser orbiting the rogue planet Zither 7, secure the artifact, and return to base. Simple enough for a team like Alpha Squad, whose exploits were legendary even among the ranks of the Galactic Special Forces. However, simplicity was an illusion often shattered upon contact with the unknown, and Zither 7 harbored mysteries beyond comprehension. As soon as they breached the cruiser's airlock, an oppressive weight settled over them. The ship was ancient, its walls corroded by time and something else, something unnatural. Strange symbols etched into the bulkheads glowed faintly under their helmet lights, pulsing rhythmically as though synchronized with their heartbeats. Every step echoed unnaturally loud, amplifying the growing unease gnawing at their instincts. The silence was deafening, broken only by the occasional creak of metal expanding and contracting in response to temperature fluctuations. Then came the first sign that this mission would deviate wildly from the plan. Corporal Dex Hargrove, the squad's tech specialist, stumbled upon a log file buried deep in the cruiser's corrupted systems. What he found chilled them to the core. Fragmented recordings of human voices speaking in languages none of them recognized, interspersed with guttural growls that couldn't possibly belong to anything humanoid. Static crackled intermittently, distorting the audio, yet snippets of coherent phrases emerged, hinting at experiments, sacrifices, warnings left behind by those who ventured here before them. "This isn't right," muttered Sergeant Elias Kane, clutching his weapon tighter. "These logs, they're dated centuries ago. Who the hell built this thing?" Before anyone could answer, the artifact activated. Its surface rippled like liquid metal, releasing a burst of energy that knocked them off their feet. When they regained consciousness, things took a turn no one saw coming. And here's the kicker, we're barely scratching the surface of how twisted this gets. Don't look away. The next revelation will make your jaw drop. When they came to, disoriented and groggy, Captain Reed was already on his feet, staring intently at the artifact. His demeanor had changed, subtle yet unmistakable. Gone was the commanding officer who always prioritized his team's safety above all else. In his place stood someone colder, more calculating, as though the artifact had awakened something dormant within him. "Sir," Corporal Hargrove called hesitantly, brushing debris off his armor. "What happened? Did you see?" "I saw everything," Reed interrupted sharply, his tone clipped. Without another word, he approached the artifact, extending a gloved hand toward its shimmering surface. The others exchanged uneasy glances but followed orders instinctively, forming a defensive perimeter around him. That's when the whispers began. At first, they dismissed it as static interference in their comms. But the murmurs grew louder, clearer, until each member of the squad heard distinct voices echoing inside their minds. They spoke promises of power, knowledge beyond comprehension, freedom from mortality. Each soldier felt the pull differently. Some resisted fiercely, while others succumbed almost immediately. Only Reed seemed immune, or so they thought. "Fall back!" barked Sergeant Kane, grabbing Reed's arm and yanking him away from the artifact. "Whatever this thing is doing to us, it's dangerous." For a fleeting moment, doubt flickered across Reed's face. Then, without warning, he shoved Kane back hard enough to send him sprawling. "You don't understand?" Reed snarled, his voice laced with venom. This changes everything." Tensions escalated rapidly after that incident. The squad regrouped outside the chamber housing the artifact, trying to piece together what had happened. Hargrove ran diagnostics on their gear, searching for anomalies that might explain the hallucinations or whatever they were. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Voss grilled Reed relentlessly, demanding answers he refused to give. "You're acting like one of those cultists we wiped out last year," Voss snapped, pacing back and forth. "Tell us what you know, or I swear I'll." "You'll what?" Reed shot back, his steely gaze silencing her mid-sentence. "Relieve me of command? Go ahead. See how far you get without me." Their argument was interrupted by a sudden jolt that rocked the entire cruiser. Emergency klaxons blared as artificial gravity fluctuated wildly, sending everyone sprawling. When the turbulence subsided, they discovered the source. The artifact had begun emitting waves of energy strong enough to destabilize the ship's structural integrity. "We need to neutralize it," Kane declared firmly, checking his rifle. "If we don't, this whole damn wreck is going to collapse on top of us." "No," Reed countered, blocking their path. "We're not destroying it. Not yet." "And why the hell not?" Voss demanded, incredulous. "You saw what it did to us." To Kane, "Are you seriously willing to risk our lives for some shiny rock?" Reed hesitated, his resolve wavering ever so slightly. For the briefest moment, vulnerability flashed in his eyes, but then it vanished, replaced by steely determination. "Because it chose me," he said quietly, almost reverently, "and I won't let you destroy what it offers." The squad stared at him, disbelief etched onto their faces. Reed's words hung heavy in the air, laden with implications none of them dared to fully comprehend. Hargrove glanced nervously at the artifact, its pulsating glow casting eerie shadows across the walls. Calder adjusted her medical kit, her fingers trembling slightly despite her outward composure. Even Kane, usually stoic and unshakable, shifted uncomfortably, his grip tightening on his rifle. Kane stepped forward cautiously, his boots clicking softly against the metallic floor. "Chose you? What does that even mean, Captain? You think you're special because some alien relic decided to play mind games with you?" Reed turned to face him, his expression unreadable. For a moment, he looked almost regretful, as though caught between two worlds pulling him in opposite directions. But then the artifact pulsed again, brighter this time, bathing the room in an otherworldly light. Reed straightened, his features hardening once more. "It means exactly what I said," he replied coldly. "I'm not abandoning my post. If you want to leave, go ahead. But mark my words, you'll regret it." Voss exchanged a glance with Kane, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. They had trained together, fought side by side, trusted each other implicitly. Yet here they stood, divided by forces none of them understood. The artifact loomed behind Reed, its presence palpable, almost sentient. It whispered promises none could ignore, tempting them with visions of greatness, of transcending their mortal limitations. Some resisted, others faltered, torn between loyalty to their captain and fear of the unknown. The standoff between Reed and his squad reached a boiling point. Trust, once unshakable, crumbled into dust. Accusations flew like shrapnel, each word cutting deeper than the last. Voss accused Reed of abandoning his duty. Kane questioned his sanity. Hargrove simply stared, too stunned to speak. Only medic Rhea Calder remained silent, her sharp eyes observing every nuance of the escalating chaos. "What do you mean, it chose you?" Calder asked finally, breaking the tension with her calm, measured tone. Her voice carried a weight that silenced the others momentarily. "Explain yourself, Captain, because right now, you sound like someone who's lost their goddamn mind." Reed turned to her, his expression unreadable. For a moment he looked almost regretful, but whatever emotion lingered there quickly hardened into resolve. "I can't explain it fully," he admitted, his voice low but steady. "But when I touched the artifact, I felt connected, like it was showing me truths no human has ever known. Truths about life, death, existence itself. And yes, maybe I have changed, but isn't evolution supposed to be painful?" His words hung heavy in the air, met with disbelief and anger. No one bought his explanation, not entirely, but arguing further seemed futile. Instead, they devised a plan behind his back, knowing full well it might cost them dearly. The artifact pulsed faintly behind him, as if feeding off the discord among them. Its hum grew louder, more insistent, as though urging Reed to act. Voss clenched her fists, her knuckles white under her gloves. She had always trusted Reed implicitly, followed him without question. Now doubt gnawed at her core. Was this really the same man who had led them through countless battles? Or had something taken hold of him, twisting his thoughts and intentions beyond recognition? She glanced at Kane, whose jaw was set in grim determination, then at Hargrove, who fidgeted nervously with his scanner. None of them spoke, but their shared glances conveyed volumes. We're not leaving until we neutralize that thing, Voss declared firmly, her voice cutting through the oppressive silence. If it's affecting you, Captain, then we need to shut it down, for your sake as much as ours. Reed's eyes narrowed, his patience visibly fraying. You don't get it, he snapped. This isn't just some alien trinket. It's a gateway to knowledge, to power, to understanding the universe on a level you can't even begin to comprehend. And you want to destroy it because you're afraid. Afraid, Kane interjected, stepping forward aggressively. We're afraid of what it's doing to you, Reed. You're not acting like yourself anymore. Whatever connection you think you have with that thing, it's poisoning you. Can't you see that? For a split second, uncertainty flickered across Reed's face. Then the artifact surged again, bathing him in an intense green light. His posture stiffened, his eyes glazed over, and when he spoke, his voice carried an eerie resonance. It's not poison, he said almost reverently. It's salvation. The squad regrouped outside the chamber, their minds racing with conflicting emotions. Betrayal stung deeply, but fear kept them grounded. They couldn't afford to let personal feelings cloud their judgment. Not when the stakes were so high. Hargrove pulled up schematics of the cruiser on his wrist console, tracing possible escape routes while keeping one eye on the artifact's energy readings. Calder tended to minor injuries sustained during the earlier turbulence, her hands moving deftly despite the unease etched onto her face. We need to disable it, Kane reiterated, pacing back and forth. Whatever influence it has over Reed, it's only going to get worse. If we wait too long, we risk losing him completely. And how exactly do you propose we do that? Voss shot back, frustration evident in her tone. Walk up to it and smash it with a rock? That thing's practically indestructible. Then we find its weak point, Kane countered, stopping abruptly to face her. Every system has vulnerabilities. We just need to figure out what they are. Hargrove raised a hesitant hand, drawing everyone's attention. Guys? There's something weird happening with these readings. He pointed to a series of erratic spikes on his display. The artifact's energy output is increasing exponentially. If this keeps up, it could destabilize the entire ship. Panic rippled through the group, but Voss quickly took charge. All right, listen up. We're splitting into two teams. Hargrove, you and Calder stay here and monitor the artifact's activity. Try to pinpoint any patterns or weaknesses. Kane and I will head back inside and keep an eye on Reed. If things go south, we'll improvise. Kane nodded curtly, already checking his weapon. Let's move. Time's running out. As they prepared to re-enter the chamber, Calder grabbed Voss by the arm. Be careful, she whispered urgently. Whatever's happening to him, it's not natural. Don't underestimate it. Voss offered a tight smile, though her eyes betrayed her apprehension. We'll handle it. Just make sure you've got our backs. With that, the two teams parted ways, each carrying the weight of uncertainty and dread. Inside the chamber, the artifact pulsed ominously, its glow intensifying with every passing second. Outside, Hargrove and Calder worked feverishly, their instruments beeping frantically as they analyzed the data streaming in. The countdown to disaster had begun, and none of them knew if they'd survive it. Under the cover of darkness, or rather, the perpetual twilight cast by the cruiser's failing systems, the squad prepared to act. Their objective was clear: disable the artifact, eliminate any threats, including Reed if necessary, and escape with their lives intact. It wasn't personal, it was survival. But as they moved through the labyrinthine corridors, doubts crept in. What if he's telling the truth? Whispered Hargrove, clutching his scanner tightly. His voice trembled slightly, betraying the fear bubbling beneath his composed exterior. What if the artifact really is offering something incredible? Doesn't matter, Kane replied gruffly, keeping his rifle trained ahead. His boots clicked softly against the metallic floor, each step deliberate yet cautious. Even if it is, we can't trust him anymore. He's compromised. Voss nodded grimly, her jaw set in determination. As much as she hated to admit it, Kane was right. Whatever Reed claimed to experience, it had fractured his judgment irrevocably. Loyalty meant nothing when weighed against the potential devastation the artifact could unleash. Yet, deep down, a part of her still hoped for redemption, for Reed to snap out of whatever trance had ensnared him. Still, unease lingered. The closer they got to the chamber, the stronger the whispers became. Promises turned to pleas, then demands, each voice vying for dominance in their minds. Some urged surrender, others screamed defiance. By the time they reached the entrance, half the squad was visibly shaken. Kane signaled for them to halt, raising a fist to indicate silence. He peered around the corner, his enhanced visor scanning for movement. Inside, Reed stood motionless, his back to them as he gazed at the artifact. Its surface shimmered like liquid mercury, pulsating rhythmically in sync with his breathing. For a brief moment, Kane considered taking the shot, ending the threat before it escalated further. But something stayed his hand. "He's unarmed," Voss murmured, her voice barely audible even through their comms. "Maybe we can still talk him down. Or maybe he's luring us into a trap," Kane countered, his tone harsh but not unkind. "We can't afford to take chances." Taking a deep breath, Voss stepped forward, her weapon lowered but ready. "Captain Reed," she called out, her voice firm yet tinged with desperation. "It's over. Step away from the artifact." Reed didn't respond immediately. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, as if listening to something only he could hear. Then, slowly, he turned to face them, his expression eerily serene. "You don't understand," he said softly, almost apologetically. "This isn't about destruction. It's about creation." Reed's words hung in the air like a challenge, his serene expression unnerving against the backdrop of chaos unfolding around them. The artifact pulsed brighter, its energy rippling outward in waves that distorted the very fabric of reality within the chamber. Lieutenant Voss tightened her grip on her rifle, her knuckles white beneath her gloves. She wanted to believe there was still a shred of the man she once trusted standing before her. But the cold detachment in Reed's eyes told a different story. "Creation," Kane echoed skeptically, his voice laced with barely contained rage. "Is that what you call this? Turning your back on your squad, betraying everything we stand for. Also, some alien relic can whisper sweet nothings in your ear." "It's not just a relic," Reed replied calmly, almost reverently. His gaze flickered between them, lingering momentarily on Voss before returning to the artifact. "It's a bridge, a connection to something greater than ourselves, something that could redefine our existence. Or destroy it," Voss countered sharply, taking another cautious step forward. Her weapon remained lowered, but her finger hovered near the trigger, ready to act if necessary. "Captain, whatever this thing is showing you, it's not real. It's manipulating you, twisting your thoughts. You have to fight it." For a fleeting moment, doubt flickered across Reed's face. His lips parted as though he might speak, his body tensing slightly. But then the artifact surged again, enveloping him in a cascade of green light. When the glow faded, his expression had hardened once more. "You don't understand," he said, his voice now tinged with frustration. "This isn't manipulation. It's enlightenment, and I won't let you take that away from me." Kane exchanged a glance with Voss, their unspoken communication clear. They were running out of time. Whatever influence the artifact had over Reed was growing stronger by the second. If they didn't act soon, they risked losing him and possibly themselves to its insidious pull. Voss swallowed hard, forcing herself to remain composed despite the storm raging inside her. "Marcus," she pleaded, using his first name in a desperate bid to reach the man buried beneath the artifact's influence. "Please, whatever hold this thing has on you, fight it. We need you." Reed hesitated, his resolve wavering ever so slightly. For a brief moment, vulnerability flashed in his eyes, but then it vanished, replaced by steely determination. Behind him, the artifact began to shift, its surface rippling violently. Energy crackled in the air, raising the hairs on everyone's necks. Whatever decision they made next would seal their fate, and perhaps the fate of countless others. Time slowed to a crawl as the standoff intensified. Reed's loyalty to the artifact, or whatever influence it exerted over him, had become absolute. To the squad, he was no longer their captain. He was an obstacle, a threat, yet pulling the trigger felt impossible. How could they kill the man who had led them through countless battles, who had saved their lives more times than they could count? "Marcus!" Voss shouted again, her voice breaking slightly under the weight of emotion. "Don't do this. Don't throw everything away for whatever this thing is promising you." Reed didn't respond immediately. Instead, he raised a hand toward the artifact, his fingers brushing its shimmering surface. The moment contact was made, the chamber erupted in a blinding flash of light. A deafening hum filled the air, vibrating through their bones and making it difficult to think clearly. The whispers that had plagued them since entering the cruiser grew louder, more insistent, until they drowned out all other sounds. Through the haze, Kane spotted movement. Reed had retrieved a sidearm from his holster, his movements eerily precise and deliberate. Without hesitation, Kane fired a warning shot, narrowly missing Reed's shoulder. The sound snapped the others out of their trance-like state, prompting them to raise their weapons defensively. "Stand down, Captain," Voss barked, her tone leaving no room for negotiation. "We're ending this. Now." Reed smirked faintly, a ghost of his former self. "Ending it?" he repeated mockingly. "You think you can stop evolution? Stop progress? Your children playing with forces you don't understand." "Maybe," Kane conceded, stepping forward cautiously, "but better children than puppets." The insult struck home. Reed's composure cracked, revealing flashes of rage and desperation. "You don't get it," he spat. "This isn't just about power. It's salvation. For humanity, for everything. If you stand in my way, you're condemning us all." Behind him, the artifact began to shift, its surface rippling violently. Energy crackled in the air, raising the hairs on everyone's necks. Whatever decision they made next would seal their fate, and perhaps the fate of countless others. Betrayal cut deeper than any blade. As Reed opened fire, the squad scrambled for cover, returning shots instinctively. Plasma bolts ricocheted off the chamber walls, filling the air with searing heat and acrid smoke. Chaos reigned supreme, but amidst the madness, clarity emerged. Reed was no longer their ally. He was their enemy. "Take him down," Voss shouted, dodging a blast that scorched the floor inches from her feet. "Don't let him near the artifact." Kane lobbed a concussion grenade, buying them precious seconds to regroup. The explosion momentarily disrupted the artifact's influence, allowing Calder to sprint forward and jam a disruptor device into its base. The machine sputtered, its glow dimming significantly, but not extinguishing completely. "We need more time," Calder yelled, frantically adjusting settings on her device. "Keep him busy." Easier said than done. Reed fought with a ferocity none of them had ever seen, his movements precise and relentless. It was as if the artifact had enhanced his abilities, turning him into a near unstoppable force. One by one, the squad fell back, injured but unwilling to give up. Hargrove, crouched behind a console, tapped furiously at his wrist interface, attempting to recalibrate their suit's shielding systems to counteract the artifact's interference. Sweat dripped down his forehead as error messages flashed across his screen, each failure chipping away at his confidence. Beside him, Calder worked feverishly, her hands trembling as she adjusted dials and toggled switches on the disruptor device. Almost there, she muttered under her breath, her focus unwavering despite the chaos surrounding them. Just a little longer. Voss darted from cover, firing a burst of plasma rounds in Reed's direction to draw his attention. Her aim was true, striking him squarely in the chest, but instead of collapsing, he merely staggered backward, his armor absorbing most of the impact. The artifact pulsed violently in response, its energy surging outward in a protective barrier that deflected further attacks. "He's too strong," Kane yelled, reloading his rifle. "We can't keep this up forever." "We don't have to," Voss replied grimly, her eyes locked onto Reed. "Calder, how much longer?" 30 seconds, Calder shouted back, her voice strained with effort. "I just need 30 seconds. Reed advanced steadily, his weapon trained on them with deadly precision. The squad exchanged panicked glances, knowing full well they couldn't hold him off indefinitely. But retreat wasn't an option, not when the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. Just when it seemed all hope was lost, the tide turned unexpectedly. Hargrove, crawling weakly along the ground, managed to activate a fail-safe protocol embedded in their suits. A high-frequency pulse swept through the chamber, disrupting the artifact's connection to Reed. The effect was immediate. He staggered, clutching his head as coherence returned to his eyes. What have I done?" he gasped, dropping his weapon. Horror dawned on his face as he surveyed the carnage around him, the wounded bodies of his comrades, the scorched walls bearing testament to his rampage. "It's not too late," Voss assured him, limping closer despite her injuries. "Help us finish this." Together, they overloaded the artifact, triggering a chain reaction that consumed the chamber in blinding light. When the dust settled, the artifact was gone, and so was Reed. The survivors limped back to the extraction point, battered but alive. Questions swirled in their minds. Had Reed sacrificed himself to ensure the artifact's destruction? Or had the artifact claimed him as its final victim? Answers eluded them, leaving only scars, physical and emotional, to remind them of the ordeal. Back at headquarters, debriefings painted Reed as a hero who died preventing catastrophe. But those who knew the truth carried the burden silently, haunted by memories of the man they once trusted implicitly. Lieutenant Voss sat alone in her quarters, staring blankly at the wall as fragmented images of the mission replayed in her mind. She couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right, that the artifact's influence hadn't truly been neutralized. Sergeant Kane paced restlessly outside the medbay, where Corporal Hargrove lay recovering from severe radiation exposure sustained during the artifact's detonation. Calder worked tirelessly inside, her hands steady despite the exhaustion etched onto her face. Each member of the squad bore the weight of what had transpired differently, yet none could escape the gnawing sense of unease that lingered long after their return. During the official inquiry, Command praised Alpha Squad for their bravery and quick thinking under extreme duress. Medals were awarded, commendations given, but none of it felt real to the team. The accolades rang hollow against the backdrop of betrayal and loss they'd endured. As they stood together on the stage, accepting accolades they didn't want, Voss caught Kane's eye. His expression mirrored her own inner turmoil. Unresolved anger, lingering guilt, and an unshakable suspicion that their fight was far from over. That night, unable to sleep, Voss wandered the deserted corridors of the base. Her footsteps echoed softly against the metallic floors, blending with the faint hum of machinery. She found herself drawn to the archives, where classified files chronicling past missions were stored. Something about Reed's transformation and the artifact's cryptic promises had sparked a memory she couldn't quite place. Determined to uncover answers, she accessed restricted records detailing encounters with similar anomalies across the galaxy. What she discovered chilled her to the core. Reports dating back centuries described artifacts like the one they'd encountered, each linked to catastrophic events that reshaped civilizations. Some accounts hinted at individuals who had succumbed to their influence, becoming vessels for forces beyond comprehension. Others spoke of survivors driven mad by visions they couldn't explain. One name appeared repeatedly throughout the documents: the architect. No further details were provided, but the mere mention sent shivers down Voss's spine. Months passed and life moved on, for most, but for the remnants of Alpha Squad, closure remained elusive. Then, during a routine patrol near Zither 7, strange signals drew their attention. Against orders, they investigated, uncovering evidence that suggested Reed might still be alive and working with the very beings he once swore to destroy. The transmission came through garbled and distorted, barely intelligible over static interference. Yet amidst the chaos, one voice stood out, calm, measured, unmistakably familiar. "This is Captain Marcus Reed," it said, each word dripping with eerie clarity. "If you're receiving this message, know that humanity stands on the brink of greatness or annihilation. Choose wisely." Kane slammed his fist against the console in frustration. "It's a trap," he growled, pacing furiously. "He's playing us, just like before. Or maybe he's trying to warn us," Calder countered softly, her eyes fixed on the screen displaying the signal's origin coordinates. "We can't ignore this. Not after everything we've been through." Voss hesitated, torn between caution and curiosity. Part of her wanted to believe Reed still retained some semblance of his former self, that there was hope for redemption. Another part screamed at her to stay away, to sever ties completely and move on. Ultimately, duty won out. They charted a course for the source of the transmission, knowing full well the risks involved. As they approached the designated location, the ship's sensors detected anomalous energy readings consistent with those emitted by the artifact. The planet below, a barren wasteland of jagged rock formations and swirling dust storms, loomed ominously ahead. Landing protocols were initiated, though tension crackled palpably among the crew. None spoke openly of their fears, yet the unspoken question hung heavy in the air. What awaited them on the surface? Confrontation loomed once more. This time, however, the stakes were higher. Humanity's future hung in the balance, tied inexorably to the choices Reed had made, and the ones awaiting him. The squad disembarked cautiously, weapons drawn as they scanned the desolate landscape for signs of movement. The wind howled incessantly, carrying particles of sand that stung exposed skin despite their protective gear. They found Reed standing atop a ridge overlooking a massive excavation site. His armor gleamed unnaturally bright, infused with technology unlike anything they'd seen before. Around him gathered figures cloaked in shadow, their forms shifting and indistinct, as if reality itself struggled to contain them. An oppressive silence settled over the group as they locked eyes with their former captain, now transformed into something both alien and terrifyingly human. "Marcus," Voss began, her voice trembling slightly. "Why are you doing this?" Reed turned slowly, his gaze piercing yet devoid of warmth. "Because I see now," he replied evenly. "I see the truth, the potential within us all. These beings, they offer salvation, evolution. All we need do is embrace it. And abandon our humanity?" Cain spat, raising his weapon. "You're delusional if you think we'll follow you down that path." Reed smiled faintly, almost pityingly. "Humanity is a cage," he said softly. "One you refuse to break free from. But soon you'll have no choice." Before anyone could react, the shadowy figures surged forward, their movements fluid and unnatural. Energy crackled in the air as the squad opened fire, plasma bolts illuminating the darkness briefly before dissipating harmlessly against the entity's incorporeal forms. Panic gripped them as they realized conventional weapons were useless against such adversaries. Calder activated a portable EMP device, hoping to disrupt whatever force powered the beings. The resulting pulse caused them to falter momentarily, giving the squad precious seconds to regroup. Hargrove scrambled to recalibrate their suits' shielding systems while Voss and Cain formed a defensive perimeter around Calder. "We can't hold them off forever," Cain yelled, firing blindly into the advancing horde. "We need another plan." "I'm working on it," Hargrove shouted back, sweat pouring down his face as error messages flashed across his interface. "Just give me a minute." Reed watched impassively from afar, his expression unreadable. Whatever humanity remained within him seemed buried beneath layers of detachment and resolve. He raised a hand, signaling the entities to halt their assault temporarily. Silence fell once more, broken only by the ragged breathing of the beleaguered squad. "You fought valiantly," Reed acknowledged, stepping closer. "But resistance is futile. Join me, and together we'll usher in a new era. One free from fear, pain, mortality." Voss stepped forward, her weapon lowered but ready. "And what happens to those who refuse?" Reed's smile faded, replaced by cold indifference. "They cease to exist." The climactic showdown unfolded on a desolate moon, where Reed revealed the extent of his transformation. No longer merely human, he embodied a hybrid of man and machine, driven by motives neither side fully understood. Betrayal gave way to understanding, hatred to reluctant alliance. As the battle raged on, the squad discovered fragments of Reed's memories embedded within the artifact's residual energy field. Through these glimpses, they witnessed moments of clarity when he resisted the artifact's influence, moments when he questioned whether the cost of salvation outweighed the value of humanity itself. These revelations forced them to confront uncomfortable truths about loyalty, sacrifice, and the nature of progress. Calder devised a risky plan to reverse-engineer the artifact's technology, using its own power against it. Hargrove worked tirelessly to stabilize the volatile energy readings, while Cain and Voss provided cover fire against relentless waves of shadowy entities. Each step brought them closer to either triumph or utter destruction. In the final moments, Reed confronted Voss directly, his augmented form towering over her. For a fleeting instant, recognition flickered in his eyes, the ghost of the man he used to be. "Kara," he whispered, his voice tinged with regret. "Forgive me." Before she could respond, the EMP device detonated, engulfing the battlefield in a blinding surge of energy. When the light faded, Reed lay motionless on the ground, his fusion of organic and synthetic components destabilized beyond repair. The shadowy entities dissipated, their connections severed along with the artifact's influence. In the end, redemption proved possible, but at great cost. Sacrifices were made, bonds reforged, and lessons learned. As the galaxy moved forward, the legend of Captain Reed served as both warning and inspiration. Proof that even in the darkest depths of space, Humanity's greatest strength lies in its capacity for change. Voss knelt beside Reed's lifeless body, tears streaming down her face as she closed his eyes. Despite everything, she mourned the loss of the man she once admired, the leader who inspired unwavering loyalty. Kane placed a hand on her shoulder, offering silent support as Calder tended to Hargrove's injuries nearby. Their journey home was somber, marked by reflection rather than celebration. Though victorious, they carried the scars of war, not just physical wounds but emotional burdens that would shape them forever. In debriefings, they recounted the events truthfully, omitting nothing despite the risk of scrutiny from command. Humanity deserved to know the dangers lurking beyond the stars and the sacrifices required to protect it. As they parted ways, each member of Alpha Squad vowed never to forget the lessons learned. They understood now that survival wasn't merely about defeating external threats. It was about preserving the essence of what made them human, the ability to choose compassion over power, unity over division, hope over despair. And so, their story became legend, a testament to courage, resilience, and the enduring spirit of exploration. For in the vast expanse of the cosmos, humanity's greatest adventures lie not in conquering the unknown, but in embracing the challenges it presents, and emerging stronger for having faced them. If you've been captivated by this epic saga of courage, betrayal, and redemption among the stars, don't miss out on more thrilling adventures. Subscribe now to explore a universe where humanity's greatest strengths are tested against the infinite mysteries of the cosmos. Your journey begins here. Are you ready to dive in?